I mess around with the kids that I teach all the time. We have so much fun. But as soon as I say, look at my eyes, stop. 9 times out of 10, they're going to stop because they know I'm not
messing around.
And now, but at home, like this is now becoming like a big concern for me as we're talking about it. Cause I'm like, all these parents are screwing up their kids.
Well,
but they don't.
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally.
I understand it's not intentionally.
Yeah.
But like if you think like, okay, if you think about it, right? And you think about like all the animals on the planet, all of the wildlife, all of the plants, everything, it's all survival of the fittest, right? I don't know what makes human beings think that those rules don't apply. And if you don't cater to that, like if you don't say like, there's nothing wrong with love and hitting. You know what I mean? Not in an abusive relationship way, but like if your kid's going to stick a fork in a light socket, are you going to be like, Timothy, now why are you thinking about doing that? Like you're going to go hit that kid away from the light socket.
Swat their hand. Right.
I'm not taught, like this is where the biggest misconception is because people want to manifest in their heads that like, oh, they're talking about abuse. This is not talking about abuse. This is talking like you need to make sure that your kid is going to survive.
Right.
You know, whether it's in the workforce or whether it's in like their social life or whether it's they're in the woods hunting for food. Like you don't rationalize with the bear. I don't understand why more parents aren't, because it worked for centuries. It worked for millennia. And then all of a sudden it's like, then the only reason we're here is because it was survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
Like the only reason you're here, me here, like it's because all the genetics in the families before us survived.
But now like, and this is, I'm sorry, everybody. But now it's like, I have trauma.
Everybody
and everything's
does.
trauma. Yeah, but now everything is trauma. And like, I get it. And
to me, any more trauma, like the trauma stuff is an excuse for people to be assholes.
Well, if you overuse the term, then it just means nothing.
It means nothing.
I totally agree.
But I think that a lot of people are trying to, break generational trauma.
Yeah, but life is trauma.
I know. But I think I'm trying to defend the other side of them and just
trying to steel man their side.
No, I'm just trying to like give perspective and like I could see like why they would want to do it, but what are we actually doing to our children by doing that? Like, what are we teaching them? What are we instilling in them? Are we giving them confidence to go out into the world? No.
I think there's a deleterious effect to that, where it's like the programming happens early.
Yeah,
1 to 7.
And then if you don't nip that in the bud by then, like it's gonna be a real hard time for that kid.
Well, what are you going to do when your 14, 15, 16-year-old kid is literally dictating your household at that point? And now you've lost full control.
Well, it's what's her face from Dr. Phil. Cash Me Outside.
Well, she's a multimillionaire now, so she's a bad example.
But the behavior
How about that?
How about it?
But the behavior at the time, we were all appalled.
We're appalled.
Right.
And we're like, you don't do like
No, you don't speak to an adult like that.
That looks like gentle parenting run amok.
It probably was.
Exactly. And I don't think so. There is room for, talking about feelings. Definitely. You have to talk about feelings when you're dealing with kids. You have to.
Yes. Later in life when you start to understand that.
Every single behavior does not warrant some sort of deep, self-exploration or introspection about why you stole a toy off your sister.
No. I always tell my son, I also not an expert, could be very wrong, but everything you do in life has a consequence, no matter what it is.
Yep. Positive or negative.
Positive or negative, there's a consequence to it. And if it's a negative consequence, then there's going to be a consequence, and then we could talk about why it's a consequence. We could sit down after you've, go to your room. Mm-hmm. Sit on it. Think about it. I'll be up. And then you have that like conversation about like why we did this and why you needed, to have that lesson.
Definitely.
Tell me about food. How does food leave anxiety and stress?
Well, I feel like Melissa's really the food expert here because, I'm going to be honest. I drink a Diet Coke every single day.
She loves her diets.
So does Trump.
I will not give up.
You have vertigo from the aspartame. Call me.
All right, so let's look at it this way.
Bury me with one.
Let's look at it this way then. Like, if
I'm a dye chick. I don't like dyes.
No.
The food dyes. So Trader Joe's, they don't put dye in anything. That's why I
think
love to shop
Aldi
there.
also has kind of said that they're not going to do dyes either. I could be wrong.
I don't know. I don't shop there, but I know I shop at Trader Joe's because especially my middle kid who has epilepsy, he cannot handle the dye and he knows that he can't handle it and he hates the way he feels on it. So he will actually, if there is a party at school or whatever, he will check the ingredients and he will try. He doesn't always, he's 12, to stay away from the dye.
Are other people starting to realize this?
Yes.
Yes. Thank God.
And what are they starting? And what are they?
So like people will start to notice, they'll say, oh my God, I took my kid to a birthday party and they had red dye in something.
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing I knew, I didn't know who my kid was.
Yeah.
So people are starting to do food elimination diets, figuring out what is pinpointing their child's behavior.
So the food affects their behavior.
Yes.
Yes. The dyes in the food can affect your kid's behavior. I'm trying to pull up something so I could give you more like.
I'll give you a story. I took my boys to like a monster truck, something or other in Philly for, whatever. And my middle kid wanted a icy, slushy, whatever, the red one. And I was like, oh, Kieran, I don't think you should have that. And he was like, come on, please. And I was like, all right, fine, as a special treat. He screamed and cried and threw an absolute fit the entire ride home from Philly. It was bananas. And that is actually the event that he was like, I don't want to have that anymore because he was insane.
So he even became self-aware of that.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying before. Like he will check the ingredients. He tries.
So like,
listen, he loves a Dorito.
Red dye linked to hyperactivity. So if your child has ADHD, okay, and your kid is consuming foods with red dye, which could be anything from Skittles, Doritos, Flaming Hot Cheetos. Well, now what's going to happen is your kid with ADHD is going to have hyperactivity. So you're setting your kid. So you're setting your kid up for failure, or their ADHD is linked to
the food
dyes. And here we are giving a generation of children medications when all we had to do was take some foods away out of their diet to see if the behaviors were still there.
My crazy mind goes to, like, look, everyone knows that a hammer can build something or it can destroy something, right? So when they put these food additives in, when they put these dyes in and things like that, like, there has to be somewhere along the line somebody going like, yeah, it'll make the Pop-Tart redder, but it'll also, when we just give this to rats, they lose their minds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why?
So maybe we shouldn't put it in our food.
Well, it's illegal in 38 and 60. So
I understand that.
Countries.
What I'm looking at is like here. Like why?
Well,
why
because
don't
it's
they
cheaper.
know?
Well,
Yeah, but
they
cheaper-
know it.